Hey, au pairs! I'm Edwina.
I'm Hannah.
We wanted to interview each other about how we found our host families, because Hannah, she found her family through AuPairWorld. I found my family through an agency. We were just curious about each other's experience, and we thought it'd be a great video for all of you who are deciding whether you should go through an agency or not. A lot of the au pairs in our APOC community use AuPairWorld to find their host families, above 90% for sure. We are gonna interview each other to change it up a bit. Okay, so Hannah, how did you find out about AuPairWorld?
There were a few girls in my year in school who had been au pairs, and I emailed them or I Facebook messaged them saying, oh, what was your process? Can I basically have your family? And they were like, no, but use this website. So a lot of the time I find AuPairWorld is found out about through word of mouth.
I think that Americans find AuPairWorld just by Google searching and not even by word of mouth. Then what did you think about the site when you went on? Like, it's a free website for au pairs, so were you kind of like nervous about the credibility of it? The whole process was intimidating at first.
No, I don't think I was nervous at all, because most people that had been au pairs that I knew had found host families that way. So I found it really easy to set up a profile, which we've also made a video about on our channel. It took me maybe like an hour to write my profile out, and then I went to the French department and was like, can you check over my French? And it was uploaded, ready to go, and then I was getting emails within the next few days. Although it's free for au pairs, so it was free for me, host families actually have to pay to be on the website, which is something which I love about it, because it's not the you don't get cheapskate host families who are like on Facebook like, we need an au pair. They actually have put in the time and effort and money to be looking for an au pair, so I usually trust it a bit more. And
what did you put on your profile that was like important for you to share?
It's having pictures with kids or pets is a good sign, because so many people just put up like a selfie of like just the face, but I think having like, you know, you're surrounded by family setting shows the right image. And I also would recommend writing it in both languages, so English and the language of the country where you want to move to, if you can. Not just Google Translate, but trying to get someone to help you out. Make sure you talk a lot about your hobbies and how much you love kids and why you want to go into the job, rather than just, this is my name, this is what I do.
If you hadn't spoken any French, would you have been more picky about finding a family that speaks a lot of English, or were you like scared about that aspect of it?
No, I think lots of people ask us that question. If my host family had spoken French only, I would have picked up French more like quickly, like you did. But because my host family spoke English, I was like very comfortable, but it wasn't that good for language acquisition. So I don't think I'd think about that again going into the process. I would maybe try and look for a family actively who didn't speak as much English as my host family did.
What is the biggest advantage for you having gone through AuPairWorld?
I'd say the fact that it was free and it was very easy to use, and I loved that there was support there. So if I ever had any questions, I could email AuPairWorld, and many people don't actually realise that there's help that AuPairWorld offer, but that is really
there's like
useful.
A support button on the bottom of their website.
I felt supported without having to actually pay like £600 to be going through an agency.
What was the biggest disadvantage of going through AuPairWorld then?
The fact that there are so many Brits on there. There are so many people that are your exact competition. Like, you know, when it's the difference between an American or a Brit or a German or Meg, it's kind of like, well, at least we've got the language differences that I can kind of see your profile and be like, okay, there's differences there. When there's so many British people from like all over around, that was a bit stressful. But in the end, there are enough families to go around. I think I would probably spend more time going through my offers rather than just being really excited about the first one I got as well.
It's so easy to get excited about the first family that ever contacts you.
Okay, well, that is my experience with AuPairWorld, and we've also made videos about AuPairWorld before, which we will link to if you're interested in watching those. But now, let's move on to the non-AuPairWorld.
Yes, so Tara, it's my turn to be interviewed.
But why did you decide to go through an agency?
So, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. I didn't really know about AuPairWorld at the time, because I didn't know really anyone who was an au pair before me, and so I knew one other girl, and she used an agency, but the agency that she used was super, super expensive, and I didn't have that money to spend, so I found an agency that was like really cheap. They were kind of hands-off. I feel like certain agencies really help you through the process, do all of your paperwork with you. You have to wait for them to match you up with a family, which could take months and months and months. And so there's just someone holding your hand throughout the whole process. And so I kind of liked the idea that someone was guiding me a little bit, although I do like my freedom, so it was kind of like annoying almost to have the agency, but at the same time I chose that route because someone I knew had done it that way before me, and because it was just a nice way to be moving abroad for the first time. It was nice having someone kind of ask me questions and help me think about things that I wasn't thinking about.
Basically, we've both just heard of someone that
Yeah,
did the same
exactly.
route. How far in advance did you actually go, like, looking for a host family?
I was trying to leave as soon as my college semester had ended, my university semester, so like May 15th, and I started looking for a family in February. My visa didn't pan out until July. I mean, I didn't start late, I think I started at the right time, but like I underestimated the visa process and all that paperwork that needed to be sent back and forth between me and my family. Once I decided my family, which was like April, the process between deciding on the family and then getting my passport back took about April, May, June, 3 months. So 3 months in advance, basically.
Did you feel supported by the agency? Because you say most people go through that route to feel really supported when they move abroad.
Once I moved abroad, my agency kind of let go and was just like, hey, have fun. And that sucked because I'm not even going to tell anyone what the agency was that I used because I had really not a good experience with them. When my first host family and I just didn't get along, I felt like I was being mistreated and just overworked. And so I reached out to my agency. There was no communication, and then it felt like I was stuck because I had this agency that placed me with this host family, and I felt like I needed the permission of the agency to leave the host family, but I wanted to leave the host family as soon as possible. I was trapped because I had gone through an agency. Right. Whereas had I gone through AuPairWorld, for example, I would have not felt as guilty going through and finding another family on my own terms. The biggest disadvantage for sure is the fact that you're kind of stuck in this host family situation and you don't have freedom, and you have the like when you're choosing a host family, your agency knows your preferences, but that process of them putting you with a host family can take weeks, months. Like I've even heard it taking up to like 1.5 years if your agency is really small. If I were to do it again, I wouldn't go through an agency because I value that flexibility. Honestly, if you just do the research and reach out to enough people, research what questions to ask, it's completely something that you can do on your own. There are other means of getting support out there that aren't necessarily through an agency. So I spent like a stupid amount of money for an agency that in the end didn't really help me out that much, and that kind of sucked.
To end on a positive note, is there an advantage of going through an agency?
As an American, since I needed a visa, the whole visa process was really confusing. And at the time, like, there weren't as many resources out there. I think there are more now, especially that we exist. Back in the day, there was not that much information out there. So having someone help me through the visa process was super, super convenient thing. Yeah. Majority of the au pairs in our community, the APOP community, go the non-agency route, which is why we're a high advocate for it, because it just goes to show as long we have this community, you can reach out to each other. And of course there are always people who take the agency route, and like there's no shame in that. There's so many advantages of using an agency, as I just said.
When it goes right, it seems to go right really
definitely.
Well. But if it does go wrong, it seems to be the worst case.
Yeah, definitely.
In all the stories I've heard.
That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this candid interview between Edwina and Hannah.
Please follow us on Twitter.
And check out our Amazon book.
Oh, yeah. Which is finally out.
Okay, ciao for now.
Bye.
Bye.